As novelist E.M. Foster observed, one person with passion is better than 40 people who are merely interested. Hello and welcome to another episode of Wizards of the Street. I'm your host, Ramesh Damani. He cut his teeth in finance and markets while still sitting on his father's lap. A rank holder as a chartered accountant, today he manages over $2.5 billion of AUM in India. The secret of his success? He says he knows how to dodge bullets. Please help me welcome to Wizards, the MD and Head of Norwest India, Niren Shah. Niren, welcome to Wizards.
Thank you very much. It's an honor being here.
Niren, thank you so much. Niren, a lot of my guests have come from financially unsavvy families. They were first generation in the market. But you came from a financially savvy family. Tell me about your early influences.
So, my biggest influence on the markets was my father. He's a chartered accountant. He's 91 years old, and even today he invests in stocks daily. My mother also is an investor. My grandfather was an investor, and so I saw the first few shares, original shares of ACC. So our dinner table conversations used to be a lot about shares, stocks, Bhau copies, things like that. So
yeah, that is an ancient relic, Bhau copies.
Ancient relic. And so by standard 9, I was investing in stocks and, been given balance sheets. And so, that was like kind of very normal for me.
But it's fascinating. The first few lakhs you made it yourself in the stock market. Tell me about that.
So I was a sub-broker during my college days at Sydenham College. I was told by my dad that no investment, just learn. I was actually learning under Professor Mankikar. And I started with my pocket money and kept reinvesting it. Of course, the index went from 1100 to 4500.
This is during the Harshad Mehta boom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, I'd made a couple of lakhs, and I was telling my dad, let me buy a car now. And he's like, no, nothing doing. Reinvested back into the markets, right? So
he was right. You don't want to buy a depreciating asset like a car. You want to stick to the depreciating assets. You learned that, I'm sure, over time. When I read your biography, Niren, you have a fascinating biography. You met some of the most influential people in the tech landscape of the next 20 years. Talk to me about who are some of the more prominent people you met and how they have shaped your career.
So I got the opportunity of working very closely with Meg Whitman.
She was the head of eBay, right?
She was the head of eBay, later HP, on the board of P&G.
And ran for governor of California,
ran for governor. She's the US ambassador right now. Then I also had the fortune of working very closely with John Donahoe, who ran eBay.com. He's currently the CEO of Nike. Right? And then, of course, my two mentors here, Pramod Haque, who was Forbes #1 investor of the year, and Jeff Crowe, who's the senior managing partner of Norwest. Obviously worked with a lot of sort of, amazing tech
luminaries.
people. Luminaries. And they've actually disrupted the tech space, right? So, I've been very fortunate.
You talk, Meg Whitman, in fact, the reason you got to know Meg Whitman is that you started something called Bazi.com, which was bought by eBay.
Yeah.
And when eBay bought it, Meg Whitman told you what about Bazi?
So, Bazi, we had an amazing product which we had built, and the product was way ahead of its time. Of course, the internet at that time was 2 million users in India. This is way back in 2003-04. And when she saw our product, she actually said that this product of yours which you built is actually 3 years ahead of eBay. And we're hoping that in 3 years, we'll be able to get to this product. Right, and she was very impressed by that.
What an endorsement, huh?
What an endorsement.
And how young were you at that time?
I was 27 years old, and at that point of time, I was running product, and it was unbelievable to hear that. And then we also realized that India was so small as a market at that point of time compared to compared to the US. And at that point of time, we always wondered that had we built this product in the US, would we have been worth $100 billion?
You'd have been Larry Gates, Bill Gates, Larry Ellison,
correct,
Steve Jobs kind of formula.
Correct.
But you had a great job. You moved up to eBay in America at that time. You came back to India in 2008 as a VC with Head of Norwest. There's Tolstoy wrote a very famous short story called The 3 Most Important Questions in Life. We leave the questions to the existentialists. But in terms of equity investing, what are the most important questions that you ask?
So look, we are very fundamental investors, right? And in India, of course, everything starts in Hindi, private markets included.
Yeah.
So I'm notorious for asking this question saying, kitna revenue hai, kitna profit hai, kaun hai iske piche? You know, we're trying to judge over here that is this a company with unit economics, right? We're trying to judge that who are the founders, sort of what is the quality of the founders, what are the ethics and integrity. So, I mean, our job is to sort of understand within the first hour, given that we see 1,000 deals a year, to understand within a first hour whether we want to pursue this or not. So we are sort of, you know, we get to the point very quickly and you know, again.
Sometimes over lunch too.
Over lunch too,
Yeah.
right.
And if the company does not have revenues or profitability or management that you believe, you will pass it over. You're not scared to pass over an opportunity.
Oh, yeah. We will pass all the time, and that's the sort of nature of the beast. I think there are companies which have not got revenue and profit, and we have funded very early on. But the management team, the founding team, that is very, very critical.
That's interesting. I know one company that you funded despite not having particularly good revenue or definitely not profit was Swiggy. How did you come out with the idea of Swiggy? Did someone commit to you or did you search for it?
So this was a very top-down thesis. Actually, at some level, this started out in my household, where every Sunday evening we would eat pav bhaji, which is famous in Mumbai. And I would go have to collect that pav bhaji, park in a no parking zone, always get fined, never find parking. And then I was like, listen, how come we don't have something which delivers? So we started a top-down search in food tech, which was not very popular. And we looked at all the teams. And we really, really liked Swiggy, and we really liked their vision for sort of full stack food delivery all the way to your house within 30 minutes. And that's how it all started.
No, but you went through which ones? You went through Zomato and a few others.
Zomato,
and you picked Swiggy.
Food
Why?
Panda, Tiny Owl. There were a bunch of companies, and then Swiggy was the tiniest. It was actually 500 orders a day. And obviously now they do a couple of million orders a day. So when we started, it was a pretty contrarian strategy to actually go with the fifth largest player, or rather the smallest player there. But we really loved the founding team's vision, very clear cut. They were very tech driven. Everyone else was doing these phone call orders. I mean, today we can't imagine that, but they were very clear it has to be tech driven.
The app was really
App was amazing. The vision was very, very clear. And again, the energy with which they approached everything and the kind of, you know, the timing with which they were able to get consumer love, it was just amazing. So for us, it was actually a no-brainer.
You talk about, you know, turning down people. What did you see in that management? Who was the MD at the company at that time, doing 500 orders a day? What did you see in him that you put the weight of Norwest behind him?
So, you know, Harsha, and Harsha is the founder and continues to sort of run this amazingly well, was a remarkably balanced guy. And as I said earlier, that it was just a very clear-cut vision that food delivery, you know, a lot of people were like, we will get some other delivery people to come. But, you know, the vision was very simple that, look, when you're hungry, you get angry, right? And you want your food to come on time, you want what you decided. So they were very clear that, look, in certain time, with the technology, this should reach you with minimal noise, right? And it should be a seamless consumer experience. And, you know, that vision and then the ability to execute to that vision. You know, even at 500 orders, when we called up a lot of customers, they were raving about it. So the ability to do that and execute at such a young stage with no money, because when we came in, you know, the round had not even been done. So to do that, we were blown away.
Niren, I know you are very fussy about unit economics. You're very fussy about profitability. This company had neither and does not have any of those even today. So what translated? What was the compelling investment value there?
So it's a massive need and a pain point, and it's a massive market. So there's food delivery and there's grocery. Both of these are very large markets. It's a $1 trillion market when you count both of these together. And it does take time and effort to build out markets like these. Along the way, we have gone ahead and proven markets. So we proved that Bangalore could be profitable. We proved that Hyderabad could be profitable. At this point, in a few months, it's very possible that the food delivery business there will be profitable.
But a lot of critics of Swiggy and Zomato complain about the new acquisitions that they've done. I guess it's Instamart in terms of...
So Instamart was built, right? So Swiggy hasn't done any big acquisitions. I think Instamart, Swiggy started
But it's
from
bleeding
within.
money, right?
It is bleeding money, but the reason for that is, again, market size is massive. It's a $1 trillion market. So if you really look at this couple of years out and the size of the market, and eventually today you see a household name, like, so, you know, you're able to see Swiggy, people who are delivering, right? Every single morning, there are people who buy Swiggy Instamart. And I think that actually, in terms of the long run, this market could be 5x the size of food delivery.
Really?
Yeah.
And talking in terms of when Zomato is already listed, when do you intend to list Swiggy?
So I think it will take us a couple of years. We're in no hurry to list, but at the same point of time,
They have enough cash here.
They have more than enough cash. The unit economics are improving every single month, and it's a very innovative team.
Talk to me about the startup scene in India. How do you assessing that startup scene in India today?
See, this startup scene in India, we are at an inflection point. So I've sort of felt that if you look at a 200-year history and you look at 100 years behind and 100 years in front, this is the 10 years to be in startups in India.
We'll take a break, come back and chat some more with Niren Shah of Norwest.